Man, how about it? We got Oklahoma. We got South Carolina.
hmm I know at least one of them I think will be good.
I think most people can guess
You know,
who's going to
South
be.
Carolina. South Carolina, poor South Carolina fans. Shane Beamer at the helm.
I know it. I know. Let's see if he's here by Halloween. Hey guys, how are you? Episode 6, SEC Front Porch, coming at you. Another round of team previews. We got going on here. Make sure and subscribe to the show if you haven't already. At SEC Front Porch is where we're at on Twitter /X and SEC Front Porch on YouTube. Let us know how we're doing. We've done a bunch of these and we're having a good time. Oklahoma and South Carolina tonight. We are more than halfway through, and we'll do this one tonight. Next Tuesday, we'll do Tennessee and we'll do Texas A&M. That's right up our alley, right? Both of us. So we'll talk about the Vols, which I think, for people who are Tennessee fans, I guess, the optimism is just growing, right? I tend to be a little bit more level, you know what I mean? Like, some people start off at 8-4 in July, and then, by the time the football season comes, they're at 10-2. I'll stay more level on that. And then, of course, next Thursday, we'll wrap up the previews with Texas and Vandy, which should be an interesting show, because how's Vanderbilt going to be after, the year that they had, last year? Probably not the same, but who knows? That's what these previews are for. Make sure follow Seth Meredith over there at Daddy Donnie at RO_CO_balls, and I'm at Jayson at JW Sports 704. Did you get to play some golf today, Seth?
No. Today's my busy day at work, so there was a lot of appointments this morning, and kind of getting everybody on the right track to get going. So Thursdays are no bueno for golf.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, it's been hot. It's been really hot here, and hopefully some relief. I mean, I'm begging for rain. You know what I mean? I could just never find it. But if we can ever get some, I'd be absolutely thrilled to get it, because it has been hot as hell. So we're just kind of just over it. But this point we're getting to the end of the summer and into fall, and we're a couple weeks away from football, which is absolutely fantastic. We did Missouri and Mississippi State last episode, and Missouri actually kicks off the schedule for an SEC related team on Thursday, September 3rd. So that's it's the best time of year. There's just absolutely no doubt about it. Anybody has questions, comments, concerns, make sure to put them in the chat or on YouTube. Put them on social, and we will get to them as soon as we can. Probably a good time to get going with the Oklahoma preview. I was kind of hoping to get some more people in here before we did that, but I think they'll kind of come as we go. You've got your 2026 Oklahoma football schedule starts with a game against UTEP, a team that is now in the Mountain West. That game will happen on Friday, September 4th in Norman. I don't know if there's really much you want to say about this game. Obviously, could Oklahoma be looking ahead to a game against Michigan the next week? Actually, it's a week and a day, so they get an extra day to prepare. But then it's kind of weird because that game is an early game. So it's kind of like you have a late game against UTEP and an early game against Michigan, even though there's a day, extra, but it really kind of gets wiped away by that. But with UTEP being in the Mountain West, and being, I'm not going to say like an opponent that could beat Oklahoma, but do the Miners have anything for the Sooners in this particular game?
No, not at all. It's not even gonna be close. I mean, Oklahoma's they're tough this year. They've got a ton coming back. Their defense is gonna be strong. I'm super high on Oklahoma this year. I like Taylor Wine. I like David Stone is just an absolute monster on the line. They're just gonna be pushing people around again. They got the the 5-star who hasn't really panned out yet, but you can tell the talent's there at the other defensive end, and the Adebawe kid. But behind him, they got Danny Okoye too. I'm huge on their linebackers. Kip Lewis coming back, Owen Heineke coming back. They run that cheetah formation that Venables is so good at, where they have the Cole Sullivan kid. I mean, they're just reloading. Cortland Guillory's a stud. Eli Boland's a stud. Their defense is just going to be top to bottom, probably the best in the SEC, in my opinion. They kind of showed what they did last year. They play fast, they play physical. They're always at the right spot. They just completely negates big plays, is what they do. So even if you gash them for a little bit, they're just constantly at the right spot. So you might hit them for a 12 to 15 yarder, but nobody's breaking loose for an 80 yarder. There's just not a lot of holes in that defense. There's not a lot of time. We saw as Tennessee fans last year, there's just not a lot of time to sit back in the pocket and process your reads. They do a very good job of winning the 4-man fronts, right? Like, one of Venables' biggest thing is getting pressure without blitzing, which helps his secondary kind of make plays. And they do a very good job of controlling the line of scrimmage, pushing people around. I just don't see that taking much of a step back, to the point to where, if I didn't think that Oklahoma's defense was going to be this good, I am not very high on their offense. Like, I don't see it. The running game hasn't been, they did make a change. I think that it's the first time since 2020 without DeMarco Murray running the running back. So they've got DeLand McCullough, who came from the NFL. I believe he was at Las Vegas last year, and he's made some stops in college. But at Notre Dame, I think, was his last stop. I'd have to look that up. But so I'm interested to see how that is. But they're constantly shuffling their O-line. Mateer's back for another year. Satania's back for another year. They got Trell Harris from UVA, who had a pretty good year. Parker Livingston comes over from Texas, who was a decent receiver at Texas. He was a 500-yard receiver, the great white hope of receivers, if you will. So, and then they got Rocky Beers, and what a name, the tight end from
What a
Colorado
name.
State. I mean,
What a
A-plus name. And they say that he's been turning heads at camp. I've been reading into it, and they say that he's had a very solid camp. And of course, Jax Van Dorselayer's there from Tennessee.
Yes, yes.
They got the Hayden Hansen kid from Florida who came over, but I'm just not very high on this offense. I think that it starts with the O-line. I like Fasusi or whatever, Michael Fasusi. He's a star. They do return, I believe, 4 out of 5 starters, and then they have the Harris kid coming over from Arkansas, but they just weren't impressive in the run game with those 4 starters last year. I mean, I think they averaged like 3 yards a carry, and I can't remember the guy's name. Man, it's on the tip of my tongue, but the guy that transferred from Cal, who was a stud at Cal, comes to Oklahoma, and he's just awful. And I don't think that was his fault. So even me being as low as I am on Oklahoma's offense, like, their defense is A+, man. And just the things that they do to control the game, where they don't put a lot of pressure on the offense. Like, Mateer can do his job, which is pick, get into scoring range. You don't have to force anything. If it's there, take it. If it's not, kick a field goal, and you can win these 17-10 games, much like Tennessee did in 2024 to get to the playoff, much like Oklahoma did last year to get to the playoffs. So I don't see a team. Long story short, I don't see any bye week team. I don't see any team like a UTEP, like I don't know who their other bye week. New Mexico, I guess, would be their other one. I don't see any of those teams giving them trouble. I just think that their defense is just a level ahead of most people.
Yeah, and we've seen how much your defense can really erase some of the offensive mistakes. We saw that last year. For as down as you could be on the offense, and the defense can really pick them up. I like Mateer coming back. I mean, obviously they got a couple of pieces. Their defense is really good. Coming off a playoff berth, really, really helping, Venables out there, obviously job status. Then he gets a contract extension today, which is big.
Man got paid after we thought he was going to. Most of the country thought he might lose his job last year, and the man comes back and says, "I don't think so, boys. We hang our hat on defense here."
I mean, there's some people in the mentions who were like, "No, that wasn't going to happen." It's really so easy to say that right now, that he wasn't going to get fired, but last year there was a lot of talk of, would he make it? to the end of the year, if they didn't make a run, and they did, and then all that got erased, so it didn't really matter anymore, But the fact of the matter is, he was on a short list of coaches, kind of like the one we're going to talk about in a little bit with South Carolina and Shane Beamer. You know what I mean? He's been on a list of, is he going to make it? How long is he going to make it? When is it going to be? You know what I mean? Like I kind of thought he would go before Billy Napier went, but here he is. He had an athletic director that liked him, and when he was hired, and for years, and he's still there. Through whatever change has happened, he's still there. And will he be? Well, I guess that's for really, for someone else to decide. But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
I mean, the biggest thing for me is always, when I look at Oklahoma, it's always going to be like their fan base. And I live in Oklahoma City right now, right? Like I'm around their fan base constantly. And it's a great fan base. Like I love their fan base, but I'm around their fan base. I hear a lot about Oklahoma ball. Tate Sandell coming back is huge. Their special teams is always great. I don't know if that guy loses inches on his pants each year, but I'm excited to see how high up they are. And you know what? The guy deserves it. The guy can kick the shit out of the ball. He deserves it.
He can.
So,
He can.
but they've got a great fan base. But up here for me, like it's always going to be judged by what they do against Texas. Like, they went to the playoffs. That's great. But if they don't beat Texas, like it's not as successful of a year. It's very similar to that Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. Ohio State won the national championship in 2024, and people were still bitching about the fact that they lost to Michigan the last game of the year. Like it almost felt like if Ryan Day didn't win the championship, his job could have been in jeopardy because they didn't beat Michigan. And that's how much that rivalry means, dude. Like, I've got my house down in Texas too. Oh, it's a condo down in Texas that I lived for a couple of years that I still have, and I venture down, and because the Texas State Fair is unbelievable in Dallas, and that's where the game's at. Like you have this massive state fair, and then right in the middle of it is the Cotton Bowl. And during that Saturday, there's just thousands of Oklahoma fans and thousands of Texas fans gathering at the Cotton Bowl, and it's a pretty cool experience, man. Like, I'm huge on college football tradition, and there's a reason that rivalry, the Red River Shootout, which they don't call anymore, is pretty badass. But I think that like that's always going to be in the back of Oklahoma fans is like, what do they do against Texas?
Yeah. And you mentioned Michigan. It's probably a good way to segue into Michigan because second week of the year, third if you count week 0, which nobody around here does, I don't believe. But week 2 is at Michigan in Ann Arbor, number 16 Michigan at this point. And I mean, that's a good ball game. I mean, you've got 2 top 16 teams, facing off up there at Michigan Stadium. It's big noon kickoff. It's going to be a fantastic game. Michigan backed their way into Kyle Whittingham, right? Everything happened with Sharon Moore, and they end up with Kyle Whittingham, which at the point when this happened, it's like, well, who are they going to get? You know what I mean? Are they just going to have to promote a staff member and just kind of roll with it for a year? Probably so. And then that happened, and that's really good for them. He's a really good coach, spent a long time at Utah. I think he's going to do good things there, and he's going to be tested right away. We've talked about the Big Ten and their 2-3 games a year that are worth a damn in their own conference. This is going to be one of those, similar to how Texas and Ohio State are going to get together for the second year in a row. That's going to be, one of, a handful of games that Ohio State has. Ohio State's schedule this year is actually harder. I can't dispute that. I can be a Big Ten hater all I want, but they have the toughest schedule in the Big Ten. We could talk about teams like Penn State avoiding the Big 3 in the Big Ten and others, but you can't really say that about Ohio State. But with Michigan, it's kind of a different story. But they're going to get an early matchup with Oklahoma, and this is going to be. This is another one of those where I don't enjoy this part of the show when I have to talk good about Big Ten teams, but. The game is in Ann Arbor. You mentioned that Oklahoma has issues offensively. You got Mateer, but it has to be more than John Mateer. we could talk about, what they have in the backfield and the wide receivers, what they do and what they don't. Their defense is only going to be able to take them so far. Defense wins championships, offense wins games. And that's why I'm going to take Michigan. And I'm going to take them, and I don't like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to do it just in long enough until maybe you talk. Maybe I'll change my mind. Probably not, but I'll go with Big Blue.
Yeah, Kyle Whittingham just doesn't do it for me, man. Like, the guy was above average coach in a very weak division, weak conference, excuse me. I mean, in 2024, you're talking a guy went 5-7. He rebounded, went 10-2 last year, but he was retiring, right? Like, he was gone. He wasn't going to coach anymore, from my understanding. And then Michigan swooped in and pulled him out. I still don't have a lot of belief in this Michigan team. I mean, it's essentially a lot of Utah players with some Michigan players that stuck around. I think that Savion Hyder's the real deal at running back, 5-star. I like Underwood, but this is Underwood's first year working with a quarterback coach. We'll see how much he progresses. I just don't think that Michigan has the pieces to do it for me. I mean, I get the big house is supposed to be intimidating, but I think that one of the things, and you're gonna hear me continue to go back to it continuously on this podcast, but one of the things that trumps any good stadium, they did it at Neyland last year, Oklahoma did, is a defense. A defense can trump a crowd. Like, it doesn't matter how big your crowd is and how loud it is, because it doesn't work on defense. They're quiet during the offense. Like, yeah, it will help in the offense and against Oklahoma's offense, but that doesn't matter. Defense travels. That's the big saying, is defense always travels. So, I'm not high on Michigan this year. I know that they went 9-4 last year under a pretty terrible coach, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. And I think that that's because their record or their schedule was just so cake. I mean, they lost to any team with a pulse, really. So I'm just not buying the Michigan hype. I like the Kyle Whittingham hire just because it was the last pick, but I think that I think that there were several other coaches out there that would have been a better fit. How much longer has Whittingham got? Is he an elite coach? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and these questions will be answered, very quickly, with the Big Ten being improved. Top teams, it's top heavy as hell, man. I mean, there's some really good teams in the Big Ten. So we're gonna find out how good Michigan is, but I just don't see it. Give me Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma's schedule is kind of interesting because they get UTEP and Michigan and New Mexico in the non-conference, and then their first two games are against two top teams in the SEC, and then there's this stretch that's extremely winnable, and I think that stretch is going to boost Oklahoma, and that's kind of where their ability to make the playoff or not is going to be. You got them at 2-0. I got them at 1-1. There's a game against New Mexico that's on Saturday, September 19th. It's a night game. It's in Norman. Obviously, I'm going to take, I'm going to take Oklahoma. Can't really discount though. I believe his name is Jayson Eck. I believe. I really don't want to get that wrong. Coach for New Mexico.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's a stud.
Yeah, he did fantastic. I mean, there was a 3-way tie last year, I believe, for the Mountain West. It was UNLV, it was Boise, and it was New Mexico. And they did like some stupid computer rating or tie break thing, and it gave UNLV and Boise State the conference title game. And of course, Boise won, but you can't discount what New Mexico did last year. All the good things that they did, and their return to the Mountain West, which I was reading today, is kind of interesting. The Mountain West thought they were going to get a much bigger piece of the Pac-12's pie in a lawsuit that went to court, and they didn't get nearly what they thought they were going to get. So teams lost about a $20 million at least projected money that they thought they were going to get from the Pac-12 because of all the defections, and they're not going to get that money. So it's kind of interesting. Your anchor members are Air Force and UNLV and New Mexico, right? Those are the teams that are coming back that decided not to leave. So I think that they're going to have a little something for Oklahoma, but it's not going to be nearly enough. And I think Oklahoma will win by double digits in this game.
Yeah, Eck's a very competitive coach. I believe they came to was that New Mexico or New Mexico State that came to Neyland last year?
New Mexico State.
Okay,
State.
yeah.
Yeah.
But X a hell of a coach. I mean, I've been following along. He's on the hot board for a lot of jobs when they open up. He just signed a 5-year extension, I believe, last year, deservingly so. His teams look really good, but it's just not going to matter. It's just a different game, right? Like they might be able. That's the thing is when you have these really good group of 5 coaches, they can come in and make noises against the Virginias of the world. They can come in and make noises against, you know, I don't know who else I'm looking for, the TCUs of the world, right? But when they come in and they play a top 10 team like Oklahoma, it's not going to matter. Give me Oklahoma.
Yeah, so 2-1 for me, 3-0 for you, and this is the beginning of SEC play for Oklahoma. No breaks, right? So they get Georgia in Athens, and then they'll get a week off, and then they'll get the Red River shootout, Red River rivalry, whatever you want to call it. So that's their first 2 conference games in 3 weeks. They get the bye, which is fortunate for them during this time, during the stretch. But then again, it's early. So your bye is the first week of October, and then you've got to go like consecutively, 8 more games after that, which is just kind of brutal to think about. But we'll start with Georgia. We did our Georgia preview a couple episodes ago, and I took Georgia. I had Georgia going 11-1 with a loss to Ole Miss. I believe you had the same. I think we just gave Georgia a loss to Ole Miss just to give them one. I mean, honestly, I don't want to be rude to the Ole Miss folks, hotty toddy, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't want to be rude. Yeah. Yeah.
My confidence in that pick is maybe 5%, like maybe 5%. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it's only because I think we wanted them to have one.
Yeah.
We wanted them to have a loss. So let's just, like, where's it going to be? You know what I mean? Like, so we gave it to them there, and, so that makes sense. But we had Georgia beating Oklahoma, and it's not going to change for me. I'm going to take Georgia. I don't think it's ugly. But I think it's a Bulldog win.
Yeah. I think that this one is just 2 elite defenses, but one team has a pretty solid offense and one team has a mediocre offense in mind. And don't get me wrong, for the Oklahoma fans, like I think their offense is going to be better, right? Like Satania back. I'm a big Trail Harris fan from UVA. Like the guy's a stud. I mean, I think he racked up like 847 yards, 850 yards at UVA. I'm not sold on Parker Livingston. I just, Sark likes to spread the ball out. They throw it a ton. They run it too, but he throws it a ton in those crossing routes. So Parker Livingston was kind of perfect for those crossing routes. And, he had a decent year, 500 yards, but I'm not huge on that. I know that they returned their 4 O-linemen, but it was an O-line that just wasn't very great last year. And like, how big of a jump does that make? I know that Robinson and Blaylock, their 2 running backs, were out with injury. So Lloyd Avant kind of stepped up. And from what I read, he was impressing a lot of people in camp. But this is a guy who was not an impressive running back at Colorado State. That's where he was at last year. Like he was good. I mean, I guess he was pretty good, but he wasn't great by any means. So I think that he kind of starts the year. But if Robinson, Blaylock, for me, Jonathan Hatton Jr. is the spark plug, their freshman running back. So, like, if he can get going, maybe I see it. But for me, it's 2 really good defenses, which kind of trump each other. And then Georgia's offense is better than Oklahoma's offense. So that's where I'm at. Plus the fact that you're playing between the hedges. So I'm going to take Georgia. I think that it's probably, I don't know, if the spread was 9.5, I would take 10. Like that's where I'm at. I think Georgia by around 10, and they pull away in the 4th. And it's just a grind slugfest.
Yeah, I was leery to go double digits, but I think that, it could be a garbage time type of situation where you end up in double digits. I think it'll be a good game. I think it's typical Kirby Smart, dude. It's we've seen it. Every time somebody, whether it be, in conversation on X or, on, talking heads on TV, whatever it may be, every time I see somebody doubt Kirby Smart, I'm like, you guys are stupid. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't, no matter what's going on with his program, no matter how ridiculously unbelievable it is, no matter how silly it is, no matter how many guys get in trouble, nothing's going to change. And if it doesn't change, it stays the same. And that's what it is. He's just been, for almost a decade, model of consistency. We're talking about national championships, college football, playoff appearances, and national championship, natty game appearances. SEC titles. Name it. And, and the reason is because he's found something. He's just so good at, his systems and procedures, they work. He finds guys to fit him, like you pissed off that Jared Curtis, flips. Oh, well, you still, you still have guys there. You're going to get guys. It's just it's like tissues, throw them away and get another one. Programs like Tennessee are trying to be that model of consistency, where it's like, we're going to get guys and and no matter what happens, we'll be okay. Instead of like, oh God, we lost that guy. That's a big blow. I think schools like Tennessee are getting there, but Georgia and Texas are, kings of this conference in our opinion, I think. And
there's
further
sorry,
is shed, that's what it is.
Well, and I think too, the big thing, there's a couple of big things, but like you're talking about, when you talk about Georgia and Texas, you're talking about the two states with the best high school players in the nation. Like they in their backyard, like there's no reason that Georgia should have ever fallen off, in the years that they did. And Mark Richt had them at a place where it was pretty good every year. But it should never be anything other than where Kirby has it, just because the talent level in Georgia alone. It's unbelievable how many good players, and that's the staple. Sorry, Georgia Tech, you're just not there. You're just not. You've had a couple of good years, but that's not going to do it to outbeat Georgia. The NIL's there. The campus is awesome. It's in the middle of the state. People grow up Georgia fans. There's dog fans all around. It's great talent. They get to pick who they want. You can come down to Georgia and steal one, but not very often. It's hard to pluck it out of their backyard. So, they lost out on Jared Curtis, and then they went out and got the number one quarterback in the 2028 class in Wade. So, they just reload, man. They're just tough, and to do it in the SEC is from top to bottom. You can have a slip up and lose any Saturday in the SEC. And for Kirby to do what he does, it's Saban-esque. It really is. He's nowhere near Saban, but damn, he's close, man. It's a well-run program down there, and it must be nice to be a fan knowing that every year you're going to go to the college football playoff. Like, your disappointment is the fact when you lose a game, they would lose their minds if they didn't go to the playoffs. So it's just what he's done down there is kudos to him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. 3-1 for me, and 4-0 for you through the first quarter.
No, I had them losing to Georgia.
Oh, you got them losing to Georgia. So do I, actually. So they're 2-2, and they're 3-1 for you as we're through the first 4 games of the year. Could be the first quarter of the year for Georgia because they're playing 16 in our mind potentially. They get the bye week on October 3rd, and they go to the Cotton Bowl for the Red River against Texas. You mentioned it. The State Fair, the half and half. Just quite a scene. One of the best in college football landscapes. You just can't really get much better. A handful of them. And we haven't done our Texas preview yet. That'll be the last one of these that we do, obviously, with Vandy a week from tonight, as a matter of fact. So we've talked a lot about Texas, and we've talked a lot, through these previews about how good they could possibly be, 1-2 with Georgia, right? There's an ability for Texas to lose 4 or 5 games this season. I don't think they will, but they could. And if they do, I think Texas has a new football coach, and not everybody is going to be on board with that, because no, they're not going to get rid of Sark, but Sark is under a tremendous amount of pressure. You've got technically third-year Arch Manning. They cleaned up in the portal. They brought in all these kids. They've recruited well. They've done things well. NIL. They've got a $50 million near roster, evaluation-wise, talking NIL, right? And yet, if they don't make a run, it's a disappointment. if they don't make a run to the national championship, it's a disappointment by their standards. They're a top 5 team. They've got all the tools. And I think in this game, I think it's going to be, throw out what's happened in the past, right? Throw out the OU, giving Texas trouble. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think it'll be a great game. I think, a lot of things are going to happen where Oklahoma's going to have chances to win. I just think it's too much. I think it's too much Arch Manning. I think it's just too much. The dudes he has to throw to, and I know that I don't like to make a big deal about practices and fall camps, highlights, but they've got some athletes, not only behind Arch Manning, but in front of Arch Manning and defensively. I mean, this team's going to come into Neyland, and I know that a lot of Tennessee fans are really confident. And look, the Neyland effect, you should be, but this team is so good. And I'll take Texas. I'll take them to win. It may be double digits, but whatever the spread is, I'd be comfortable in taking Texas.
Yeah, I think the Parker Livingston legacy game is a little short. I know that Texas won 23-6 last year. Their offense came alive. I just think they do it again. I'm gonna take Texas over OU. I think that Texas is the most talented team in the way. I think the only thing standing in their way, when I've said it multiple times, is Sark. But this game just means more. It's different. Give me Texas again. And I know that OU fans are going, no matter how successful their season is next year, that's the one game they want. But I just don't think that they're going to get it. So give me Texas in the Red River Shootout.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get it either. So through 5 games,
I don't think there's much. I think that we've got maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 games in a row here where they're on cruise control though. So good news for OU fans.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the part of the schedule. So usually this is the part of the schedule where SEC teams have a lot of high profile opponents. And it looks like what happened was Oklahoma's got theirs early and they got theirs late. So look at it look at that however you want to. And the games that they have late are in Norman, 2 out of the 3 of them. But before we get to that stretch, probably a good time to talk about the show a little bit. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. The SEC Front Porch, put that in the search bar, and then put the notifications on so you know when we're live. Normally at 7:30. We did it a little early tonight. There is a very important high school football game in the state of Tennessee that my co-host wanted to watch. It'll probably be something that a lot of you are watching, so we did it a little bit early, and that's absolutely no problem because you're going to want to watch this game because David Gabriel George is in it. So among others that are also committed to not only Tennessee but other high-profile schools. So you're going to want to check that out. But follow the show at SEC Front Porch on Twitter or X. Make sure to follow me at JW Sports 704. Seth is over there at RO_CO_Vols. Always kind of a good time to take a break and do that because you can't ever plug the show enough because you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So there was a shot right there. Seth mentioned this 4-game cruise control streak, and it really is one. We talked about Kentucky, which is game number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, it is. On October 17th. It's a flex game. I don't really think it's going to be a night game. I think the game in Knoxville will be the night game on that particular weekend, and it's going to be both teams wearing home uniforms. I'm not excited about that enough. Just chills right now. Kind of thinking about it. I can't really wait to get to that. But Kentucky and Oklahoma get together in Norman, and we both had Kentucky 2-10. Didn't we? We had Kentucky 2-10, or were you a little bit higher on Kentucky?
I was a little higher. I think that they go. I think I had them 5-7.
That's right. You did. I had them at. I'm thinking Arkansas. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Wildcat fans. Yeah. So you had them at 5-7. I had them at 3-9. I don't believe this game was one of those victories, and I don't think I'm going to change. I'm going to take Oklahoma, probably getting a little bit of revenge on for those losses that they just suffered against Georgia and Texas. Give me OU.
Yeah, and we're gonna break down. I mean, we've already broken down 90% of these teams in this 4 game stretch, so I'll just keep it simple. OU, I don't see Kentucky being very competitive.
Yeah, I'm with you. Mississippi State, we also broke down. That's the next game. That's also flexed on October 24th. Um, we talked about the Bulldogs. You were a little bit, I believe, you were a little bit higher on them too. You've been higher on just about every team, I think, except Ole Miss, for the
Well,
most part, than me.
for
If we
me, it's
haven't been
tough.
even, like,
For me, it's tough to win 2 games at all season. Like that's just tough. Like not a lot of teams did that last year. So like I look at their last year's
yeah,
record and most people were like 5 wins last year. Now, granted, there's an extra SEC game and you have to add that Power 4 game, so the schedule's a lot different. But for me, I see a lot of teams that are mediocre teams in the SEC that are still talented, and I think that when they play each other, that's where it comes up where it's like coin flip here, coin flip here. So that's why you see me go a lot of 4-8, 5-7. That's kind of why I do what I do with those. It's not that I'm high on them. It's just I think that they have talent, and that's kind of where they were at last year. So I think it'll probably be where they're at, especially with the turnover in NIL. So that's kind of where I stay at. That's my comfort zone.
yeah. I think when I said high, I think I meant higher than me. I probably should have rephrased. Instead of saying higher or really high on, Seth is really high on, Kentucky. He's just higher than me. And I think that some of these teams like Kentucky, Mississippi State, et cetera, 4-8 and 5-7 is probably a safer bet. I don't know. I just, when I saw some of these games, I was just like, I don't know. It was risky. So, I didn't fall for the risk, I guess, or I just kind of thought a little bit differently. That's kind of what makes it fun. You know what I mean? Is that we all think differently, and it's kind of like, God, how can I think this way and he thinks that way? Well, that's just what makes us different, and that's what makes these things fun. Um, did we both had State losing, correct? I believe
Yes.
to Oklahoma.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. We're gonna keep it like that. A game a team that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit, Halloween, it's Oklahoma and it's South Carolina, and this game is in Norman as well. The question for me, and we'll probably answer it in just a little bit, does Shane Beamer have a job by Halloween? He may have a job until Thanksgiving, but does he have a job until Halloween? Does he have a job by Halloween? Not really sure. This is a couple years in a row that we're having this conversation about hot seat. I think maybe enough people in Columbia just like him to where he's good to keep his job, but it's a bottom line business. It is an even year. But this game is in, and we've talked about even years and Shane Beamer. It's kind of like gold. And then the odd years are just like, what the hell happened? But still, this game is in Norman, and I will take Oklahoma. I think they're still pretty pissed off about what happened early in the year. They're going to take it out on Kentucky. They're going to take it out on Mississippi State. They're probably going to take it out on South Carolina. They may even take it out on an opponent that we'll talk about after that. But I look for Oklahoma to get on track in this meat section, this middle of the schedule. So give me Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, we'll get into South Carolina next, so I won't go too far into depth with that. But I'll get into it more when we go through the OU because you've already heard my spiel on how high I am on OU and why I'm high on OU. But give me OU all day. I think that I do think that when the only time that South Carolina has a chance in games like this is when they play in Williams-Brice, and unfortunately, that's not the case. So I think that OU handles them pretty well.
Yeah. So you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 through 8 games. You've got them with a loss to Georgia and Texas. So 6-2 for you, 5-3 for me. Because I'm still wondering why the hell I picked Michigan, but I'm going to stay with it. I don't know. Something told me to do that, so I'll just stay with it. And that will kind of lead Oklahoma into a game at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville against Florida on November 7th. This is a game I think we talked about. It's a game that you're higher on Florida I could safely say this. You're higher on Florida than I am. I'm pretty sure you picked I think you picked the Gators. I picked Oklahoma, and I could be completely wrong, but
I picked Oklahoma.
Yeah, okay, so we both did, and I think we're going to keep. That wasn't one of the victories that Florida had on their season. I wasn't sure because you did pick a couple that were like, wow, I mean, you really do like, not like Florida, you know what I mean, but for the sake of the previews, thinking that John Summerall is going to get a couple, and he probably will. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's a good coach. He's going to get a couple. But for the sake of this one, I'm going to go Oklahoma. I'm going to stay Oklahoma and to run their win streak to 4 before we get back to the not so fun stuff.
Yeah, I had Florida over Auburn, Ole Miss, Missouri, but I did not have them beating Oklahoma because, again, just to beat a dead horse, defense travels for me. It doesn't matter how loud the fan base gets, defense travels. So I'm going Oklahoma. I think that their defense is, like I said, I just can't say it enough. I think it's the best in the SEC. I really do. So Florida's a very difficult place to play at. I mean, like I've been there, like I've said a couple of times before, literally the students and the crowd is 10 feet from the opposing players. You are like right on top of them. I think that it will be a little bit of a shell shock for Oklahoma going in, but the one thing that is the cure to what ails you when you have a shaky offense at a road environment is your defense being elite. So give me OU.
Yeah, now we got to get back to the not so fun stuff. Unfortunately, the fun stops, folks. I'm sorry for my Oklahoma fans, for my Oklahoma friends. But I have to say this. So I'll preface this by what I'm about to say with this. Oklahoma is a great fan base. They have great fans, and I did not enjoy the game last year. The game the year before was phenomenal. The game last year, not so much. But other than Oklahoma reminds me of kind of like Auburn. We both, friends of enemies or friends or however that work. However that saying is, right?
An enemy of an enemy is a friend of mine.
Yeah. Yes, that. And so we all kind of with Auburn and Tennessee, we both don't like the same teams. With Auburn or with Oklahoma and Tennessee, we don't like the same teams. It's the other one that claims that they're the UT, but they're not. But, for the sake of, now we'll talk about how I want Oklahoma to do good when they're not playing Tennessee. That was the point of that. It's just not going to – these next two games are just I mean, they're both at home, which is great. I mean, you couldn't have gotten a better, a better draw. And I think they're going to, they may get one or both when the games are played, but they're not going to get them. They're not going to get them in my previews. They're not going to get either one of them. I'll just be honest right now. Ole Miss comes to Norman on November 14th. I'll take the Rebels. I'm pretty sure you took Oklahoma. I'm pretty sure because you're not nearly as high on, and I'm just trying to remember, you're not nearly as high on Ole Miss as I am, but I will take Ole Miss. I'm still high on them. I think that Pete Golding in his first full year as head coach is going to do a lot of good things. I think Chambliss coming back is big. I think that they were so close to the title game. I think they're going to make a run. Their schedule is tough, but I think they're going to be able to navigate it. I could be horrifically wrong, but I'm going to go with Ole Miss in this game.
Yeah, I'm Oklahoma on this one. I'm not impressed by Ole Miss. I think they have all the talent in the world. But I just, I'm not buying the John David Baker hire from ECU. I think that Chambly's the rock star. I think Kewan Lacey's a rock star. Everybody's been talking about Cook in practice and about how he's separating himself and he's unguardable one-on-one. Well, people said the same thing when he was at Texas. People said the same thing when he was at Syracuse. I mean, the only thing that beats that guy in a one-on-one coverage is himself, and he beats the hell out of himself on a yearly basis. So I'm just not as high on Oklahoma. I think that losing Caden Lee was bigger than what people thought. I don't think he's a one receiver by any means, and that came out during my Missouri predictions. But I do think that he's a hell of a two receiver, and him and Chambly had something special. So I'm just really not high on Ole Miss. They play this game at Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's defense does enough to get it done. I think that their offense moves the ball well at that point in the season. They're starting to fire on more cylinders, pushing people around a little more. Maybe the running game's getting back into it. Xavier Robinson's hitting another gear. Give me Blaylock hitting another gear. Maybe even Jonathan Hatton stepping up as a freshman at that point in the season. He's acting more like a sophomore. Give me Rocky Beers for a touchdown in that game, and I will take Oklahoma over Ole Miss.
Oh, Rocky Beers into the end zone. I like it. Got a couple of comments from Joshy Boy. Appreciate him being here. OU defense is going to be nasty this season. Yeah, I could see that. Will it make up for some deficiencies offensively? Yeah, sure. But yeah, no, I agree with that. We talked about that as well. Also, yes, this. Offense wins games, defense wins championships, and a lot of times on the road, you want to have a really good defense. The reason is because, like Seth said, the stadium is quiet when these teams are on offense. So it's it's a little bit easier for them to process. The offenses are what have the issues on in opposing stadiums. So yes, that and I think Oklahoma's will. Got to jump to Texas A&M next. So Seth still has this as a 2-loss team. There's 2 games remaining, so they're 8-2. I've got them at I don't know. I've lost count. I got them at 4 losses, I believe. So that would be 6-4. And then they get Texas A&M at home. Another game at home, winnable. They may win it. They may just do it. I'm just not going to take Oklahoma. I'm going to take Texas A&M. I'm again coming off of a playoff appearance for the Aggies. I'm really high on Mike Elko. I mean, I know Marcel Reed for all the things that he does not do well. I think he's going to come into the year much improved. A team that always does well in not only recruiting, but in the portal with that oil money. We know that they're going to be good on both sides of the ball. I like A&M a lot. I probably can't say it enough. I think, we're going to break them down when we break down Tennessee on Tuesday. And for all that being said, give me not Oklahoma, give me Texas A&M.
Yeah, another team I'm just not that high on. I've got them around the 8-4 range. I probably shouldn't show my hand too quickly because I want you guys to tune into that show. But just another team that I'm not super high on. I think that they skated by on their schedule last year. I think that South Carolina put a pummeling on them in the first half. It was embarrassing. It took a miracle for Texas A&M to come back. We started kind of seeing their true colors. I think that Mike Elko runs a really good defensive team, but this is still a guy that struggled at Duke. I think that Marcel Reed's good. I don't think he's great. I think he relies on his legs entirely too much. Now, granted, that playoff game was one of the windiest games I've ever seen, but still, I mean, the guy couldn't throw the ball more than 12 yards with any kind of accuracy. So I'm curious to see what he does in year 2. There was a reason that Heupel in Tennessee passed on Reed coming out of Tennessee as a high schooler. So, I'm not super high on A&M. Maybe that's the Mike Elko effect. Maybe I'm just not a believer in him yet. I don't know. They certainly have the players to be a damn good team, but so did Jimbo Fisher, right? I mean, so I'm just not really high on A&M. I think that Oklahoma takes one more step towards the college football playoff, and it is a very big step because their last game is against Dorkowitz, and give me OU in this one.
Yeah, barring a meltdown, which neither one of us picked. They'll be eligible for the college football playoff. I was thinking about this, and we got to be we absolutely have to be cognizant of this fact. If there's going to be more than 4 or 5 SEC teams that go 10-2, there's a world where one of them gets left out or more. There is that world, especially when you've got the G6, you've got Notre Dame, you've got the Big Ten. I mean, how good is the ACC and the Big 12 going to be? How many spots do they take? We know the committee might be a little bit more SEC heavy this year, but I was thinking about this. if you've got, Georgia and Texas and OU and on, however many teams have at least 10 wins, and I think this might be something I need to probably be more cognizant about than you, because I'm higher on some teams that you might not be, and so that might burn me. But I was thinking about that. It's probably, I should probably take a look at that, because if I have more than 4 teams going 10-2, there's a possibility that one of them ain't going to get in. But yeah, we talked about the Eli Drinkowitz game being the last game for Oklahoma, and that's in Columbia. We did our Missouri preview the other night, and I don't think it's going to change in a night and a half or however long it's been. I think it's going to be probably the same. We'll take Oklahoma. For me, 7-5 seems a little down. I've seen people pick OU at like 7-5, 8-4. It seems like I'm a little low. I don't think you're too high. I think I'm a little low, but that's where I'm at as the schedule kind of unfolded. 7-5 for me, for the Sooners.
Yeah, and I've only have 4 teams that I have in that 10-win range, which is Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, and Georgia. So I think that those are the 4 teams that are pushing for a playoff. I would love to say Tennessee, and I am going to have Tennessee. I'm going to be fairly high, but I'm going to try not to be biased on them either. But I think that they certainly could be around that playoff range, but I think that there's a game or two that they struggle with that they probably shouldn't. So that's why with Tennessee, it's like I don't know where I'm at with that one. But I do have them beating LSU, so we've already went down that road. But yeah, I'm only high on the I think Tennessee. I think the SEC gets 4 teams to the playoff, and that's who I think it is. I think it's Alabama. I think it's Oklahoma. I think it's Texas, and I think it's Georgia. And I could be wrong. That's just my picks. But yeah, give me Oklahoma to beat Mizzou handedly. Last game of the year.
Yeah. So you mentioned. Gotta take a look here. You mentioned Alabama, Texas, Georgia, and OU as your playoff teams. It's probably a good idea to look at this real quick. I know we haven't gone through all these previews, but I don't have Alabama as a playoff team. I have Georgia as a playoff team. I think I had LSU. That was where mine kind of substituted for Alabama. I had Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, and to be determined out of Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Texas. Will be what it comes down to. So I think this actually works out well. I was worried that I was going to do something really stupid and pick like 6 or 7, 10-2 teams, which is almost impossible really to do if everybody plays each other so damn much. But I think I'm good. I have LSU instead of Bama, and we both have Georgia and Texas, and then you have OU. So that's kind of where we're at with Oklahoma. That was our Sooners preview. Be sure, if you are not able, obviously, if you're watching this live, you know that you know what's going on. But you can always catch the replay on YouTube. Make sure you put in the search bar the SEC Front Porch, and you can subscribe, put the notifications on so you know when we're live. Be sure and follow the show at SEC Front Porch on Twitter or X, whatever you call it. Emotional outbursts, questions, comments, concerns, put them in the chat or on YouTube. Seth, have you looked at the YouTube comments to see if there is any by chance?
No, I've been on Twitter making sure. We had some from Tattoo Baker when the stream started. He said that you didn't have the kahunas to come to the Texas OU game in Dallas. They also said they were just asking about the special. We touched on everything they asked. They were a little bit early and didn't let me kind of go through my progressions with OU, but they had some good comments on there.
I do have the cojones to do it. I don't know if I have the flight money. So, Mr. Tattoo Baker, if you'd like to send over some flight money and some hotel money and some spending money, I'll be there. I'll be there at the Cotton Bowl at the State Fair. I'll meet you, and we'll have what's the food choices down there? What are they doing?
Oh, it's amazing. They've got over like 200 stalls. They've got some of the best barbecue at the fair. They have these homemade cinnamon rolls that they like make from scratch that are phenomenal. Anything that you can think of. They have like fried steak on a stick. They've got all kinds of things, but then they have these awesome vendors that come from all over the state to bring their barbecue in, their brisket, all different kinds of stuff. There's great burgers, great corn dogs. There's literally over 250 stands of food. I mean, it's literally the park is like 2.5 miles of a fair. It's the biggest state fair in the nation, dude. I mean, it's crazy.
Mr. Tattoo Baker, if you send me some money for a flight and a hotel, I'll meet you for a steak on a stick right there in the middle of smack dab on the in the Cotton Bowl. We'll have a steak on a stick and we'll talk about OU in Texas. But until then, it's just kind of is what it is. But that's Oklahoma. It's probably a good idea to get to South Carolina at this point. I have a feeling this is going to be a lot more fun than kind of anything, just to kind of see how long Shane Beamer lasts. Looking at their schedule right off the bat, they've got winnable games. They've got some games that are good for them and in their favor early. Obviously, Kent State and Towson are two games that they will get on the 5th and 12th, back to back in Columbia. And I don't see any problem with South Carolina and the Golden Flashes or the Towson Tigers. Do you see an issue with either one of those games?
No, and I think that we both picked South Carolina to beat Mississippi State too. So the first three games kind of just, and this is where it starts getting a little easier because, like, and don't think the shows are getting shorter, guys. But like, if you watch the previous shows, we broke down these other games pretty extensively. So we've already went through the Mississippi State, South Carolina game. We already went through the Alabama, South Carolina games. So they start becoming shorter and shorter just because of, we've already been there before. So yeah, I'm going to stay the path. I think that South Carolina beats Kent State, Towson, and Mississippi State.
You know what I'm realizing? It probably wasn't a good idea to. We may have to start adjusting our evenings that we do our show, because you've got like Cousin Shane and that SEC pod doing their thing, and Pate and Heavy Pour, you know what I mean? Like all these shows are on at the same time. I mean, we're grateful that we have anybody that listens to me. Like I'm grateful for anyone that comes by and chills with me, you know what I mean? Because I mean, sometimes I'm just like, who the hell would want to listen to me? But I appreciate that everybody's here. But it's like sometimes going up against these other shows, it's like, damn, I probably should have chose a different night. But anyway, we're here, so it doesn't matter. So we need, so we need to knock it out of the park, as we've been doing on every show. So we talked about, let's see, Kent State, Towson, Mississippi State, boom, boom, boom wins. We talked about Mississippi State the other night. I'm not going to change my mind on a victory for the Gamecocks. We'll keep it that way. And then here comes one of those games for Shane Beamer where he becomes like a meme or a GIF, where he gets mad about ass kicking that he's going to take at Bryant Denny. And then it becomes an excuse fest. It becomes, our offense didn't do this or our defense didn't do that. It's just excuse after excuse after excuse on why Alabama kicked your ass. And that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to lose by multiple scores, maybe whatever the spread is, take Bama type of thing, write in how many points. I think, we talked about Bama off the top, first episode, first team, or it was either Arkansas. Alabama was first. So we talked about it right out of the gate. And I'm not going to change my mind. I'll take the Crimson Tide by a lot. Give me Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, and the big thing for South Carolina is what's their identity? What's their identity ever been, right? You've got a quarterback who doesn't know if he's a passer or if he's a runner, and he second guesses what he does. The guy's electric when he takes off, but he doesn't really know what kind of quarterback he is. And I think that Kendall Browse helps that out a little bit this year, but I don't really know what their running game is. They've got Matt Fuller. They've got Christian Clark, who came over from Texas, but both of those guys only had 230, 240 yards rushing last year, right? They got the Jabari Coleman guy from Penn State. Penn State was a disaster last year, and Coleman redshirted. So that should tell you all you need to know. They just lost one of their big-time receivers in Jaden Sellers. for the year with a lower body injury. Jaden Gibson, nobody really knew how much he was going to play. He's gone. Nick Harbor obviously has all the tools in the world, but I just really don't know. Is he going to put it together? Is Sellers going to be able to get him the ball, right? Like, those are things that I'm just kind of like, I don't know where I'm at with those two things. They did get Nitro Tuggle, who was a former Georgia Bulldog, transferred to Purdue, had a decent year at
What a
Purdue.
name.
I think he had like, I don't know, like 500 yards or something like that. And then the Bennett kid is showing some good stuff in camp. So we'll see how that goes. They're banged up on the O-line. Surratt and Purvis haven't played much in camp. So we'll see how that goes. And they lost one of their guys for the full year, I believe, before the season even started. And then they run that 4-2-5 base defense, which they bring in that extra DB to kind of help against spread teams to be quicker. They did pick up Caleb Herring to go alongside Dylan Stewart. They're very high on Anthony Addison. Julian Walker's fighting for minutes on that D-line. So if anything, the edges are going to be one of their strong points, as well as they got Fred Johnson returning at linebacker. But I just don't see a lot of wins here for you guys. Like, it's just kind of all over the place for me. It's like you're good at linebacker, you're good at edge, but you're weak at corner and safety. You have a stud quarterback who doesn't really have an identity. You've got a wide receiver who probably should be playing defensive end. He probably would have been a top 10 pick if Nick Harbor would have played edge last year. And imagine if you would have Nick Harbor and Dylan Stewart on both sides of the line. My goodness, what a freakathon that would be. But he elected to play receiver. The guy's spooky fast with track speed, but I just don't see a quarterback that can get him the ball. Like, that's the thing. Like, how are you going to get him the ball? What are you going to do, Kendall Browse? Like, what are you going to do to get your fastest, best player, your physical freak to football? I mean, he still had 600 and something yards receiving last year, but any other team that guy's 1,000-yard receiver 7 days of the week, like, it's not even close. So I'm just still really down on a lot of things that South Carolina has going on. I just don't know how good their O-line is. I know it's banged up and they're already man short. They lost one of their receivers they expected to contribute. What is Nitro Tuggle? Like, does anybody know what Nitro Tuggle is? We know what Harbor is. So those things just really make me concerned about who South Carolina is. And so you're going to hear that a lot in the upcoming games for me. I don't think that they have a lot to hang their hat on. I think they're a confusing team. I think it confuses themselves. Give me Alabama and a pretty big win here.
Yeah, Nitro Tuggle sounds like one of two things. Nitro Tuggle sounds like a monster truck, a name for a monster truck, or it sounds like when you go to the coffee bar at I lost it on me. The coffee bar QT, when you go there, it seems that Nitro Tuggle sounds like one or the other. Let me get you back, buddy.
Good.
You hit the wrong button.
Yeah, well, my sound went out, so I just refreshed the page to come back in real quick.
I got you. So I was saying how Nitro Tuggle, and I was making bad jokes about how Nitro Tuggle sounds like a monster truck, a name for a tremendous monster truck, or when you go to that coffee bar at QT, it's one of the flavors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, get you some Nitro Tuggle. What a name!
Nitro Tuggle roast. It'll keep you up all night.
Unbelievable. No kidding. Yeah, it'll hit you hard, keep you up all night. You know what I mean? So with that, let's get back to South Carolina. So 3-1 after the shellacking that Alabama's going to give them in our previews. A couple of winnable games coming up. I think one of them was a win, one of them was not, but we'll go back over it. Kentucky, we talked about them a few episodes ago. Not really as high on them as you are. This is a game at Williams-Brice. I think I've said it over and over. I think that Will Stein is going to do a lot of great things, but it's not going to be in this game nor in this year. I think that if he stays a handful of years, he's going to be a problem in this conference. But for now, I'll take South Carolina in this game against Kentucky.
Yeah, South Carolina for me. I think that they are good enough. They do have good enough pieces, and it's just because the longevity of Beamer, right? They return players, so even if I'm not as high on them, as I should be. I'm higher on them than Kentucky because you have all new players running an all new system. Oh my gosh, David Gabriel Georges just got flipped over, somersaulted, landed on his feet, and still ran for 6 yards. The guy's an absolute animal. Anyway, back to the main quest. I went on a side quest there, but I can multitask. I've got ADD. So yeah, I think that when you have a system in place and you have players that are in that system for multiple years, you're going to have the leg up in these 50-50 games against the new coach with all new players, all new system, all new coming from the NIL. Even your returning players are running a new system. So for me, that gives South Carolina a leg up. Plus, they're playing in Williams-Brice, which gets rowdy. It's still going to be at the point in the year where they have a little life. So I'm taking South Carolina.
Yeah. It's one of those games that South Carolina is going to want to win, because as you go, further and further down the schedule, you're talking about games where there's not as much of a chance that they're able to win. So this is going to be one of those that they're going to want to win 4-1 out of the gate, right? You're thinking, for those wondering, here comes the drop. Okay. 4-1 out of the gate. Really, really good job by Shane Beamer. Really good job by Shane Beamer thinking, what's all this, firing of the Beamer talk? What is this about? Oh, here it comes. And it starts at a game that's a winnable game for South Carolina. It's at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. It's in Gainesville. It's on Saturday, October 10th. It's an earlier game. And I think this is the beginning of the end. In my opinion, Florida gets this game. We talked about Florida. I believe that was the second episode when we did Auburn. So it was the fourth team that we did, but I'm not going to change my pick. We are both, I think you had Florida 8-4. I had them 7-5, both higher on a first-year coach, John Summerall, and with Philo behind center and some of the pieces that they have, we both feel a certain way about Florida that maybe Tennessee fans shouldn't feel. But doing these previews, you got to be able to kind of be, stay right down the middle and tell it like it is. And in this game, I'm going to tell it like it is. Florida is going to be on top. They're going to take care of South Carolina to give the Gamecocks their second loss of the year.
Yeah, give me Florida. I'm higher on Florida. I think they've got an easier schedule, but I also think they have better athletes in place. I think Summerall's a better coach, a way better coach than Shane Beamer. So give me Florida in this one.
Okay, that means, let's see, we've both got them at 4-2 with losses to Alabama and Florida. That leads to the bye week. Yeah, Tennessee's coming up. The bye week is in between Florida and Tennessee. That's on October 17th. October 24th will be a game that, makes a lot of Tennessee fans PTSD, and rightfully so. South Carolina played was when Tennessee was a top 5 team. I think they were ranked 3rd or 4th, and they took one on the chin pretty hard. Hendon Hooker got hurt. It was the end of their college football playoff hope when it was a 4-team. A lot of things happened right before that game that was very uncharacteristic. It led to a loss. There was some worry. Did South Carolina cheat and how much? It was a mess. 4 years later, there will be a game, almost 4 years later, and Tennessee returns. It's not a night game, thankfully. I think this is a part of the undoing of Shane Beamer. Ironically, Shane Beamer, whose first job out of college, he has a degree from Tennessee. His first job out of college was a grad assistant at Tennessee. And I think this is kind of where it unravels, continues to unravel, I should say. And I'll give, I'm going to go Tennessee. Games against South Carolina and Arkansas are scary because Tennessee has not played well versus Arkansas in football in the last couple of decades. And the games against South Carolina that they've lost have not been really, feel good moments either. All right, especially the one in 2022. So these games, both on the road, Arkansas and South Carolina for Tennessee, are not feel good. I don't feel any good about them, but confident enough to pick Tennessee. So I will do so in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. Give me Tennessee. I think that Tennessee's O line is a major strength. I think their backfield is one of the most underrated backfields in the nation. Javin Gordon is going to have a massive year. Dewan Morris is a stud. Justin Baker's a stud, and he's going to be the fourth running back at Tennessee. Tennessee returns four starters on the O line, and they pick up another massive addition with Ori Williams, who looks like he's locked down the right tackle position. I think that Mike Matthews is probably one of the top three best wide receivers, overall wide receivers in the SEC. The guy's an 800-yard receiver, and he's just not getting talked about. He's a five-star. He's a freak athlete. He's ran 23 miles an hour this offseason. Kayan Lee, who's a three-year starter in the SEC at Auburn, who transferred to Tennessee, said he's the hardest person to guard that he's ever played or practiced against. So I think that Mike Matthews has a massive year. And then if you stop Mike Matthews, what do you got? You got Braylon Staley on the other side in the slot. If you stop Braylon Staley, what do you got? You got a badass in Radarius Jackson or TK Keys or Travis Smith Jr. Pick your poison. So I think that Tennessee's offense is going to be enough to beat South Carolina. I think that anybody that wants to bet against a Jim Knowles defense is out of their mind. Even at these schools, they say it takes a couple of years for Knowles' defense to really kick in. But a lot of times he was at these schools who had horrendous defenses before Knowles got there, right? He made massive steps. I mean, Penn State was still the 31st ranked defense. So Tennessee had a terrible defense with great players last year. Knowles brings over a bunch of players with him, a bunch of coaches with him. I think Tennessee's defense is much improved. Give me Tennessee.
Yeah, and this is the second loss in a row for South Carolina, and third overall, as we both have them at 4-3 with losses to Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee. And the fun continues, or by fun I mean misery, as a team that we just talked about, Oklahoma, welcomes South Carolina to Norman on Halloween, and we. You had, I believe you had saved a little bit of what you were going to say for this, and I'll kind of let you go with it. But I picked Oklahoma maybe a half hour or so ago, and I don't think I'm gonna change. I'm gonna stay with the Sooners. Does Shane Beamer make it to the next game? We'll see, but I'll take Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it comes down to really. I kind of spilled most of it on the Alabama game of what I thought in this game, but I just don't think that South Carolina has much of an identity offensively. Oklahoma's defense just overpowers them. Give me Oklahoma. I think that I just don't think there's enough in the tank for Oklahoma. But I will say, as far as Beamer goes, if they held on to that man after last year, I'm not sure that they do fire him after this year. So we'll see. They might end up giving him an extension, which I hope they do. Give me all the bottom feeding South Carolina teams. So the SEC needs bottom feeders. South Carolina, it's okay. Everybody fits into a role. That's just yours. That's who Shane Beamer is. So give me Oklahoma.
Yeah. I mean, I think their fan base would probably disagree, you know what I mean, about the bottom feeders, but everybody else is probably like, yeah, we need those teams like Vandy and Mississippi State and, Arkansas, South Carolina. We need those teams.
We were once a bottom feeder. No shame, right? It's all about bad hires. Tennessee was a bottom feeder for the longest time. I have enough pride. I can put my pride and ego away and say, yeah, we were a bottom feeder. We're still a top 10 team in the nation historically, so it's okay. We're going to rebound, but I just don't know that South Carolina ever rebounds. There's a reason why you kept Shane Beamer on your staff as your head coach last year. It's because your expectations are exactly where they're at. If the guy wins 8 to 10 games in one season, he's a god in Columbia. So that's just kind of what South Carolina is. It's kind of what they always are. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just what's in your DNA.
Yeah. And when Tennessee was a bottom feeder, the SEC East was not as good as it is now and was before. And it's a real shame that there, teams like Tennessee couldn't take advantage of it. Missouri came into the conference and Missouri was in the SEC title game twice. And it's just, Bama was doing what they were doing. This was before Georgia got Kirby Smart. There was an opportunity there. It was after Florida was good, with Tebow, and there was so many opportunities, and Tennessee just didn't take advantage. And now everybody good, and welcoming more teams in just makes it that much harder. But yeah, no, bottom feeders, every conference has them. Every conference can use them. It gives teams victories. So that's kind of where we're at. Texas A&M is the next game on. We've talked about Texas A&M already because they play Oklahoma. So you're going to hear a little bit about what we think of their schedule before we talk about them Tuesday. This game is also in Williams-Brice. They do get some good home games this year. We'll talk about another one that they're going to get shortly, but this game against Texas A&M is it's revenge, right? So South Carolina 27 halftime in College Station, and they blow it. We see Shane Beamer doing the arms in the air going into the halftime and thinking that this game is over, and then they come out and do absolutely nothing. I don't think they came out. It was just like it's just like an avatar of their body, or just like one of those signs that you see in front of a store. That's what came out in the second half. There was nothing there, and they gave the game away. I'm really surprised that nothing happened to Shane Beamer after that. You can't really do much worse than that. That's like a Buffalo Bills, Houston Oilers meltdown. Name it. Name something that's a meltdown. Yankees up 3-0 in the ALCS ALCS meltdown. It was bad, and he's still there. And if he makes it to this game, he's gonna see another South Carolina loss, and this time it'll be at home. And I don't think they'll have that big of a lead. I just think that South Carolina or Texas A&M just going to come in there and beat them. So for all those things, give me Texas A&M.
Yeah, I just I'm not as high on A&M as I am as some others, but I still think that A&M is a 8-win team. So I think that A&M's got a lot more talent. There's 5 stars all over the field. I like their offense. I think that Craver is one of the best receivers in the nation. I like Marcel Reed to play well against mediocre defenses. And I'm not saying that South Carolina is a mediocre defense, because they do have some really good players, but I think there's a lot of holes and a lot of questions in that defense, whether it's the secondary, just different places, whether it's their D tackles. We know their edges are strong. We know their linebackers are going to be strong, but where are they everywhere else? So I like Marcel Reed to beat up on teams like this. Give me I know that Williams-Brice gets crazy when they start playing their EDM music and dancing around to the lights, but I just don't think it's going to matter much. Give me Texas A&M to kind of assert their will in this game.
Yeah, I just saw that DGG play that you were talking about. Man, my goodness, what an athlete! Holy hell! That was my squirrel sidetrack movement right there. But that's a 4-game losing streak for South Carolina. Started off 4-1, then lost 5 in a row. So 4-5 is a record now, and it's gut check time if you're going to make a bowl game. And we know that you've got the game against Clemson to end the year. There's a game against Georgia as well, but before they get that, they get Arkansas. So here's a feel good moment. We did our Arkansas preview first episode, and we both had them at 2-10. I remember that, and this was not one of those victories. I will take South Carolina to bounce back and get back to 500. I think they take out some frustrations big time on the Razorbacks. So give me South Carolina.
Yeah, I think Arkansas is going to really struggle to win a lot of games. And I know you were talking about how they've had Tennessee's number, but, the Bobby Petrinos and the Houston Nuts are not at Arkansas anymore. This is not your older brother's Arkansas or your dad's Arkansas team. So give me South Carolina to bounce back, get back in the win column, and keep Shane Beamer's job and give him an extension for 6 years.
Yeah, that'll get you an extension in South Carolina, the old 500. And this is a down year for him in even years. He had a pretty good 2024. Obviously, 2022, the end of it was good. And all.
So
they
cheated. They cheated. Let's call it what it was. They had a horrible season. They couldn't advance the ball past the 50-yard line against mediocre teams. And then all of a sudden they beat a couple of 10-win teams like they stole something from them. Where does that come from? I mean, I'm sorry, South Carolina fans. You can get mad at me all you want, but a team that late in the season that has shown who they are all season, all of a sudden they just know the plays. They know where they're going to be, and they know the defense, and they just magically appear to be this fantastic team that just beats two Orange Bowl teams. It just doesn't happen. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, and the thing is that they got whacked by Florida the week before, and they didn't even look like they belonged on the football field, and all of a sudden they do. They do what they do. I don't want to believe that it was a scandal, but you know what I mean. It's
and then a worse Tennessee team in 2023 just takes them to the woodshed and just spanks them. I mean, Spencer Rattler looked abysmal in that game, but all of a sudden they play this one year when they have ties to the Michigan guy, and all of a sudden they're just this amazing team. But we won't go into it. We won't. We'll pump the brakes. Cost Tennessee a 4-team playoff, but whatever.
Yeah, I know it. So a 5-5 Arkansas team at this point. They're gonna get Georgia next. That game is also at Williams-Brice in Columbia. Not really a whole lot to say here about this game. I think it's a Georgia win. You can just pencil Georgia in by however many you want to. It's going to be another one of those typical Kirby Smart games where Kirby's just smarter than Shane, and I think they're going to take it to him. Give me South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I am high on Sellers. I think he's got a lot of ups. Oh, sorry, you cut out. I thought you were done, man. That's my fault. No, but I'm higher on Georgia's team. I'm higher on Georgia's players. I'm higher on Georgia's quarterbacks. I'm higher on Georgia's running backs. I'm higher.
Oh no, you're good. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm just higher on Georgia altogether. So I'm higher on Georgia's coaching staff. I'm higher on Georgia's everything is. I'm higher on. I don't care if this game's at Williams-Brice. Like I said, I will give respect where respect is due. That is a damn tough stadium to play in. Those people go nuts. It gets loud. It really affects teams. But it's not going to affect Georgia. Defense travels. Their offense also travels. Georgia has no problem winning away games. They're not going to have a problem winning this one. Give me Georgia.
Yeah. And that takes South Carolina under 500. And in order to salvage their season and make a bowl game, they're going to need to beat Clemson. State rivalry. There's a lot of nastiness in this rivalry, and this game is going to be. It's in Death Valley in Clemson. Shane Beamer needs this game if he's still around. He needs this game to make a bowl, right? To make the the mayonnaise bowl, not even the Pop-Tart bowl at this point. He needs this victory in order to get mayonnaise thrown on. And I think that he's going to have to go home and he's going to have to put mayonnaise on himself because it's not going to happen. I'm going to go with Clemson. I think Clemson will win. I don't know how good Clemson's going to be this year. I know there's a lot of people are picking Dabo for a bounce back, and but by their standards, getting back to 10 and 11 wins like they usually have. I think by this point in the season, South Carolina is pretty broken. They're pretty busted up, like most teams. But in this Palmetto Bowl matchup, I will take Clemson, and that will give a 5-7 South Carolina team for me in 2026.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I know that Clemson's got the QB competition with Chris Vizzini and Tate Reynolds, who's a hell of a young player. I think that gets sorted out, pretty late in the season. I'm not huge on Clemson. I think that they have a better year, but Clemson's also 4-1 in the last 5 years against South Carolina. So give me, give the 1 year they did win 31-30. What? That's crazy, right? Clemson is 4-1 the last 5 years, and South Carolina's won one game, and it just so happened to be 2022 miraculously. But I'm not. I just think that Clemson's better. I think they got better players. I think Dabo is finally starting to grasp the NIL portal era. He played hardball for way too long, trying to grab his players and develop his own players in-house, and he just never really grasped hitting the portal and getting his needs. He always thought that this was 2016 Clemson, where he could just continue to build his team through the inside. I think that he's finally grasped that. I don't think he was great at it this year, but I think he was much better, and that puts them much better situation than South Carolina. So give me Clemson in this game. South Carolina to miss a bowl, finish 5-7, and Shane Beamer to get a 6-year extension.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting multiple 6-year extensions inside the season. I mean, they're going to have this guy for 18 to 24 years by time the season is over. Because
absolutely,
I mean, you finish 5-7, give or better. What if they finish 6-6? Man, you're gonna have to give them a 7 or an 8-year extension. Who knows what'll happen there? But that's Oklahoma and that's South Carolina. And we are, we're 3/4 of the way through this thing. 12 teams done. We'll do Tennessee, Texas A&M Tuesday. We'll do Texas and Vanderbilt to wrap up the previews, and then it's football, and then we're talking about games that have happened, games that are coming, and it's just such a great time. The off season is so long. You get past January and then it's just so damn long. And this is just wonderful. It's hot as hell outside, but that means that we're close to football and eventually it won't be so damn hot outside. So make sure and follow the show on YouTube, the SEC Front Porch. Put that in the search bar. Make sure you follow and subscribe, put the notifications on so you know when we're live. At SEC Front Porch is us on Twitter or X. Make sure you follow us and let us know how we're doing. We're pretty big on we try to be active on social, just so that we obviously pumping the show, pumping our accounts, just getting word out about what we're doing. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. It means a lot that anybody would listen to us, especially me. Seth is over there, the Daddy Donnie of Tennessee football at RO_CO_Vols. I'm Jayson at JW Sports 704. Seth, final thoughts before we get out of here.
Yeah, I think it's Beauty and the Beast, right? Like for me, you've got one team going to the college football playoff, you got another team missing bowl game for the second straight year, and maybe losing their coach finally. We'll see how it goes, and it's just, for me, it's just like with the talent that South Carolina's had to do what they have done. Is just crazy. I mean, if you can say one thing about Beamer, he's brought in some players. You got Dylan Stewart, you got Nick Harbor, you got Lenore Sellers. I mean, they've got talent all over the field, and he still can't produce. It's time for South Carolina fans to grow a backbone and be pissed off about Shane Beamer as your coach. The guy's not delivering. He's brought in talent. Any other coach would win with that roster that he's brought in, or at least make games competitive. I think that it's a down year, and I'm really high on Oklahoma, and I think it's going to be a good year for them. Yeah,
and you're higher on Oklahoma than I am. I'm probably a little bit too low if I had to guess, but we're right at the same point on South Carolina as we were, with teams like Arkansas and Missouri, etc. So I mean, that'll make for an easy. They'll make for an easy graphic. Also, these are fun. It just kind of it's just a great time to be able to do this. But yeah, let's get out of here. Everybody enjoy their Thursday night. It's Friday Eve, and tomorrow's the best day of the week. And I hope everybody enjoys their week and their weekend. For Seth, Meredith, Jayson Williams, come hang out again on Tuesday. We'll be doing Tennessee and Texas A&M. Until then, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys later.